Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask God. It's very nice to be. I trust you're all well. Um, as you'd expect, we've had stacks and stacks and stacks of questions and correspondence coming in. So much so that we've had to employ someone to help Glynis in reception with all the correspondence, basically. So before we start, yes, you guessed correctly, Janice from marketing has asked me to mention that we're now fresh out of all the harps, halos, white gowns, and long sleeve t-shirts with the Ask God insignia on the front, basically. So the incentive basically finished, and we've got nothing to give away just at the moment. However, we are to reassure you that we are adding value. So we're still offering peace, eternity, grace, and salvation, as you'd expect. And we'll probably do another incentive in just a short while time. And so, yeah, that's about it. Oh, actually, whilst I think about it, the twinning thing between us and Nirvana, that's still going on as well. Things are looking up as well for the Starbucks, which is going to be placed over by the refectory, which is just over there, basically. In short, anyway, on with our first question, which is from Mandy Hodinot of Manchester, who asks, why are planets and stars round? Why aren't they all different shapes? Well, Mandy, I'm sure you've been to the beach, but maybe not. If you live in Manchester, you might not have been to the beach, actually. But anyway, by a beach, there's often sand, and you'll often find pebbles as well. And as you know, over time, the tide in the ocean, water, basically brushes the pebbles, so they become very smooth, and then eventually they get smaller and smaller. Consequently, over a great deal of time, they become sand. But the part I'd like to focus on is the fact that universe, as I've compared it once before, is very much like an ocean, and so with the movement of dark energy and space-time itself, pushing things around a bit. Between that and gravity, the planets become round, basically, in your universe. Um, so, that's about it in that regard. It might interest you to know that most of the planets aren't actually sort of perfectly spherical. Majority of them are actually sort of ovoid shaped, or maybe a little egg shaped, in some degrees. And that's the effect of gravity pulling on the mass they go round on their elliptical courses, or circular courses, basically, on the routes around the suns and things like that. So I hope that helps you, Mandy. Next, Mrs. Dorothy Ataturk of Bramber asks, why is my tumble dryer on the fritz? Well, Dorothy, I think it's due to the fact you possibly haven't cleaned out your filters, from what I can gather. Yeah, Omniscience is telling me that you haven't cleaned out the filters at the front and the back. So consequently, that's why it seems to be a bit clogged up and not working. So if you clean them out, the front and rear filters, everything should be just about fine. Next, Mr. George Leyland of Lutterworth asks me, why aren't our arms long enough so I can scratch my back when there's an itch in the centre of my spinal area? Well, George, arms aren't deliberately the length that they are in proportion to your torso, for the purposes of balance. And so I often find, from personal experience, when I've taken on this corporeal form, that if I do have a bit of an itch in the middle of my back, I open up one of the interior doors of the house, like the living room door or possibly the kitchen door, and I'm sorry, the reindeer are playing. And what I do with the blade of the door, or sometimes you just call it the edge, and be careful, don't catch yourself with a little lock mechanism or anything like that. But if you sort of, rub your back against the blade of the door, the edge of the door, that seems to resolve the issue, and I often find that very helpful in that regard, and it solves the itch and scratch problem on the middle of the back. So then Mr. Roger Spinnaker from Warrington asks me, What's the point of having dark energy? Well, Roger, essentially dark energy is exotic, non-baryonic matter. Um, it exists as a sort of foundation. It's very basic building blocks of that energy and matter, basically. And so, again, if you like we were talking about earlier, we were talking just a few moments ago about the sea, the ocean, and the seabed. Now, if you take like what I was talking about earlier, about the sea and the waves over time, smooth pebbles, and over a great deal of time, eventually become sand. Um, you could possibly think of this exotic and non-baryonic energy or dark energy, as you call it, as being a bit like sand. Well, actually, it's possibly more a bit like those sprinkle things you get on cakes, all different colours and things like that. I believe you call them hundreds and thousands or something like that. Anyway, in short, these hundreds and thousands are the minuscule versions of sand, basically, absolutely minuscule versions of sand, grains of sand, and they come in all shapes and forms. Well, uh, you might end up calling them colours and flavours, um, from what I can gather about your current cosmology and quantum physics. Some of them are actually a little bit sort of look a little bit like grains of rice, but they're absolutely minuscule. Minuscule, you could hardly see them. But that's what makes up your dark energy, basically. So it's non-baryonic particles, which are absolutely tiny, coming in all sort of shapes and colours and flavours, basically. So I hope that helps you, Roger. Next, who? Abednego Stilskin. Sounds like a name from Jewish fairy tale, I think. Abednego Stilskin of Leatherhead asks, why do people recite old texts, incantations, and spells, etc., in Latin in horror movies? Does it make a difference? Well, Abednego, in short, no. It doesn't make a lot of this is utter nonsense anyway. There's no real such thing as magic. And a lot of the stuff in the movies is just in the movies. As we say, I mean, people seem to think there's magic, but it's not really magic, really. It's just very subtle hypnosis, or might be an illusion where it's extremely um, uh, believable imagery, shall we say? And the magic doesn't really exist, but there is faith. Faith is very curious, very curious. And so you could compare that to magic in a way. Um, with faith, it is a tremendously strong force. The art of it is actually sort of realizing and actualizing the answer before you sort of pose the question. Is the best way to think about it. Again, something else that you can compare to light, really, photons and particles of light. Light always knows how to get from A to B, but only after it's arrived. So it might choose to travel as particle or wave, but it doesn't know which form to take until it's reached its destination. So faith is a little bit like that again. It's sort of it's already at destination. The answer's already answered. You just got to believe that it's answered before you sort of pose the question, basically. Some people do misuse faith as selfish means and things like that. But basically, the majority of you do use faith for very, very good things, very selfless causes and things like that. So, in short, there's no such thing as magic. There is faith, there's illusion, and sort of trickery, and then there's also sort of very subtle forms of hypnosis, really. So I hope that answers your question there. So moving on, Barriella Smith asks, have you an all-time Favorite movie? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm rather fond of J.J. Abraham stuff. Oh, sorry, J.J. Abrams stuff, I should say. Um, and Christopher Nolan, he's done some very good films. I like that Dark Knight. Uh, that was very good, the Batman film. And Interstellar is very good. I'm also rather keen on Inception. Cracking film. Love the story. Interesting concept. Um, it's something that's fascinated me, and since I watched it, I think how ingenious that story is, and simply amazing effects basically. Um, so there's a multitude of films that I like. I mean, I don't know about the other people here. I mean, what film do you like? Happy Goes Bananas. Is that it? I don't know. Well, think of something funny. How about I don't know, Dude, Where's My Car? You don't like that one. Well, what films do you like? What any funny films at all? The Pink Panther. Which one? Not the one with Steve Martin. Oh, that's shocking. That's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. No, I far prefer Peter Sellers. No, you know, it's it's a question of taste, I suppose. But I mean, I also like Dogma, and that was a very good film, and Ben Hur, the original one. Well, there's a shock. You like the second one, the more modern one. It's not as good as the original. You don't like Chuck Heston? I don't know. So I'm trying to think. Don't you like anything like? I do apologise for the reindeer, by the way. When Santa, um, it isn't at work off shift, which is for about 10 months of the year. He leaves the reindeers here, but he forgets to take the bells off, and it's a bit of a Gordian knot trying to get them off the reindeer. So I do apologise about the reindeer you can hear in the background. Anyway, getting back to the films. So, do you like anything like Stargate? Have you got any taste? No? Well, what's one of your favourite films? You've got to have a favourite film. It's got to have some taste there, haven't they, really? I mean, it's absolutely shocking. What? The Happening? The Happening? What a horror where people are frightened of grass and wind? I do apologise. I think they're just being truculent. Yes, you are. You are. You're just being truculent. You're just being deliberately obtruse and awkward, aren't you? Yes, you are. Look, we'll continue this afterwards, but you're just being awkward. Uh-huh. Moving on. Actually, this leads quite nicely into this question. So, Selwyn Staines of Selwyn Patterson of Staines asks, "Why are things so complicated? Have you never heard of Occam's razor?" Well, I have heard of Occam's razor, but I do prefer Gillette or Wilkinson sword. Just a little joke. No, I have heard of Occam's razor, and yes, in all truth, things are really pretty simple. It's people I find that complicate things, as we can tell. There's a good answer for you, Selwyn. I hope. Anyway, I do fear that, yes, alas, that is all we have time for today. Please don't forget to like our Facebook page, which is Ask God. Our tag is at Ask God at Bliss HQ. Then you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep the questions coming in by prayer, text or letter, email or facsimile. But until next time, take care and